My name is Edward. I am 72 years old, a retired businessman. After my wife passed away, I live alone in my big house. My children rarely visit me, but recently they started coming more often. At first I was happy. Finally, my family wanted to be around me. But soon I noticed something strange. My son David often asked about my bank accounts. My daughter-in-law whispered when I entered the room. My daughter Sarah tried to check my documents. One evening I caught David searching my study room. When I asked, he said, "Oh, Dad, I was just looking for a pen." But I saw the truth. He was holding a copy of my will. That night I understood. My children were not visiting me out of love. They were waiting for my death. So I decided to play my own game.
The next morning, my daughter Sarah came to visit me with a basket of fruits. She smiled and said, "Dad, you should eat healthy. You must take care of yourself." I looked at her carefully. Sarah never cared about my health before. She just wanted to know if I had changed my will. While I was eating, I noticed her eyes scanning the table, the shelves, and even my pockets. She asked casually, "Dad, by the way, where do you keep your important papers? Just in case, something happens to you suddenly." I gave her a cold smile and replied, "Don't worry, Sarah. Everything is safe with me." That evening, David came again. He brought my grandson, trying to melt my heart. He said, "Dad, you are old now. You should think about the future. Maybe you can move in with me. I'll take care of you." But I knew the truth. He didn't want to take care of me. He wanted to take care of my money. That night, I wrote a letter to my lawyer. In that letter, I asked him to prepare a secret will, one that nobody in my family knew about. Because deep inside, I was sure my children were planning something dangerous. 2 days later, I woke up early and went to my garden. While watering the plants, I saw something unusual. A small plastic bag hidden under the flower pot. Curious, I opened it. Inside, there were sleeping pills and a note. The note said, "Mix this in his tea. He will sleep and never wake up." My hands started shaking. Who could have left this here? David? Sarah? Or maybe my daughter-in-law? I didn't let anyone know that I found it. Instead, I carefully put everything back exactly where it was. That evening, Sarah came into the kitchen while I was making tea. She smiled and said, "Dad, let me prepare your drink tonight." I watched her closely. She took the cup, turned her back to me, and poured something from her hand into my tea. When she placed the cup in front of me, she whispered, "Drink it, Dad. It's good for your nerves." I smiled, pretended not to notice, and switched the cups when she wasn't looking. She drank the tea herself. Within minutes, Sarah's face turned pale and she began to tremble. I calmly said, "So this is how you wanted me gone."
Sarah fell on the floor, her hands shaking violently. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She tried to breathe, but the poison had already started working inside her. I stood there, watching her struggle. My heart was not filled with fear, not even with sadness. It was filled with truth. Finally, I saw her mask fall. "Sarah, I whispered, kneeling beside her. "Did you really think I would be so blind? Did you think I couldn't see the greed in your eyes?" Her pupils widened. She tried to say something, maybe to deny, maybe to beg, but it was too late. I quickly called the ambulance. When they arrived, they rushed her to the hospital. The doctors saved her life, but barely. David was already there, waiting. When he saw Sarah lying weak on the hospital bed, his face turned pale. He didn't ask me how it happened. No, he didn't need to. His silence told me the truth. He already knew. From that day forward, everything changed in my home. The fake smiles of my children disappeared. The polite voices became sharp. The visits became colder. And for the first time in my life, I felt like a prisoner in my own house. But they didn't know one thing. I was not weak. I was watching them closer than ever. And soon, very soon, they would step into the trap I had prepared.
That night, after returning from the hospital, I sat alone in my study room. The house was dark and silent, but I could still feel the heavy air of betrayal. I opened my drawer and took out a small leather notebook. Inside, I began to write everything. Dates, times, every suspicious thing my children had done. If something ever happened to me, the world would know the truth. But writing was not enough. I needed protection. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Mr. Allen. He was the only man I could trust. When he arrived, I locked the door and whispered, "Allen, my life is in danger. My children, they want me gone." He looked shocked. "Edward, are you sure?" I opened the drawer and showed him the note I had found under the flower pot, the sleeping pills, the hidden camera recordings. His hands trembled as he went through the evidence. "This is serious. We must act fast." Together, we created a secret will. But this time, my fortune would not go to David or Sarah or their greedy spouses. No, it would go to someone unexpected. Someone who had shown me kindness without asking for anything in return. Who that person was remained my secret. That evening, David came to see me again. He brought my grandson, trying to soften my heart. "Dad, you're old now. You shouldn't live alone. Why don't you move in with me? I'll take care of you." His words were sweet, but his eyes betrayed him. He wasn't worried about my health. He was worried about my wealth. I smiled and replied, "Don't worry, David. Everything has already been taken care of." For the first time, I saw fear flash across his face. He realized he was running out of time.
The next morning, I was sitting in my garden when an old postman came by. He handed me a letter with no name, no return address. Inside, it said, "Be careful. They will try again. Do not eat anything from them." My hands shook as I read those words. Who sent this? A friend? A stranger? Or maybe someone inside my family who still cared. That evening, Sarah returned from the hospital. She was weak, pale, but her eyes were burning with anger. She didn't thank me for saving her life. Instead, she whispered, "Dad, you should trust your family more. Outsiders can be dangerous." Her words felt like a hidden threat. That night, while I pretended to sleep, I heard footsteps outside my bedroom door. The door handle moved slowly, then stopped. I held my breath in the darkness. And in that moment, I knew they were not finished with me yet. The next day, I decided to take control. I went to an electronics shop and bought a small hidden camera. That night, when everyone was asleep, I placed it in the living room, the place where my children often gathered when they thought I wasn't watching. 2 days later, I checked the footage. What I saw broke my heart. David was sitting with Sarah and his wife. They were whispering. Sarah said, "The old man is stubborn. If we don't act soon, we will lose everything." David's wife replied, "Don't worry, we will make it look like an accident." I froze. An accident? They wanted to kill me and make it look natural. For the first time, I felt real fear. But then, a strange calmness filled me, because now I had proof.
The following evening, I invited my children for dinner. I cooked their favorite dishes, set the table, and smiled warmly at them. "Dad, this is so nice," David said, pretending to be caring. But inside, I knew their hearts were dark. After dinner, I stood up and raised a glass of wine. "My dear children," I said, "I want to make an important announcement tonight." Their eyes widened. I could see the greed shining in them. They thought I was going to speak about my will. I smiled and continued. "From tomorrow, my lawyer will visit me every day. Everything I own has already been secured. If anything happens to me, the police will know who is responsible." For a moment, the room turned silent. No one moved. And then I saw fear on their faces. My trap had begun. That night, as I was about to sleep, I heard a soft knock on my window. I froze, then slowly pulled the curtain. To my shock, I saw a shadow outside. It wasn't David. It wasn't Sarah. It was my grandson. He was holding something in his hand, a small bottle. When I opened the window, he whispered, "Grandpa, I didn't want to do this, but they told me to. They said if I don't, they will punish me." Tears filled my eyes. Even my innocent grandson was dragged into their evil plans. I hugged him and whispered, "Don't worry, my boy. From now on, Grandpa will protect you." And in that moment, I made a promise. I would not only save myself, I would save him too.
The next morning, I decided to check every corner of the house, every room, every drawer, every shelf. I wanted no surprises. While checking the study room, I found something unusual. A small hidden note under the carpet. It read, "Be careful. They are watching. Trust no one." My heart raced. How long had this note been here? Who had left it? That night, I pretended to go to sleep, but I stayed alert. Slow footsteps crept through the hallway. I held my breath. The handle of my bedroom door moved slowly, then stopped. It was clear. They were testing me. They wanted to see if I was asleep, if I was unaware. But I wasn't. I was awake. I was ready. The next day, I called Mr. Allen, my lawyer. "I need more protection," I whispered. "We cannot risk any more attempts," I added. Together, we created a plan. I installed more cameras in secret, hidden sensors, even a few decoys to mislead them. I also began preparing small traps, nothing dangerous, just enough to expose their intentions if they tried anything. That evening, David came over again. He smiled, trying to appear harmless. "Dad, why don't you move in with me? I can look after you," he said. I smiled back, pretending to consider it. Inside, I was calm. I had the upper hand now. That night, I left a small envelope on the kitchen table, marked, "For David, important documents." I watched secretly from the hidden camera. A few minutes later, David entered the kitchen. He picked up the envelope, opened it, and froze. Inside, instead of money or documents, there was a note. "Caught. Every move is recorded. One wrong step, and everything will be revealed." His face turned pale. He quickly put it back, trying to act casual, but the fear in his eyes was unmistakable. I finally saw it, the first crack in their armor. They were not untouchable. They were vulnerable.
The next morning, I sat in my garden pretending to read the newspaper. But my mind was restless. Suddenly, I noticed a shadow moving near the fence. At first, I thought it was just a passerby. But then, the figure stopped. A tall man wearing a black coat stood silently, staring at my house. When he saw me watching, he quickly walked away. My heart pounded. Who was he? A stranger? Or someone my children had hired? Later that evening, I received another anonymous letter. This time, it was slipped under my door. The paper had only one line. "You are not safe in your own home." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. It was no longer just my children's greed. Someone else was involved. Someone was watching from the shadows. I looked at the hidden camera footage again, but this time I noticed something terrifying. In one corner of the living room, behind David and Sarah, another shadow appeared for a brief second, a person I didn't recognize. My children were not alone in this game. There was another player, a stranger who wanted me gone. And now the question was, who was he? And how much did he already know about me? The following day, I tried to act normal. I watered the plants, made tea, walked slowly around the house. But inside, I was on fire. Who was this stranger? And why was he with my children? That night, as I prepared to sleep, I heard a soft knock at my back door. Slow, careful, almost secretive. I didn't open it. Instead, I watched from the peephole. And there he was, the same tall man in the black coat, standing in silence. He slipped an envelope under the door and walked away without a word. With trembling hands, I picked it up. Inside, there was only a small photo, a picture of me sitting at my desk, writing in my leather notebook. My blood turned cold. How did he get this picture? Was he inside my house? Or was it one of my children who gave it to him? I realized then, the walls around me were no longer safe. My secrets were leaking out, and someone was watching from the inside.
The next morning, I rushed to my lawyer, Mr. Allen. I showed him the photograph. He looked alarmed. This is serious, Edward. Whoever this man is, he has access to your house. He knows too much. I whispered, Alan, what should I do? He leaned closer. Trust no one, not even your own blood. For now, keep everything hidden and be prepared. When I returned home, David was waiting for me. Dad, he said with a smile, where have you been? We were worried. I stared at him carefully. Was he lying? Did he know about the stranger? That evening, I checked the cameras again, and I saw something worse than before. Sarah was sitting in the living room. The tall man entered quietly, like he belonged there. She handed him a small folder. My chest tightened. What was in that folder? Were they sharing my secrets with him? One thing was clear. The stranger wasn't just an outsider. He was now part of my family's plan. And the trap around me was closing tighter.
That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about the stranger and the photo. Who was he? How did he get into my house? I decided to confront him, but carefully. I waited until midnight, then quietly followed his shadow through the hall. I saw him talking to Sarah in whispers. She handed him something, my leather notebook. My heart raced, my private notes, my evidence, all of it could be gone. I knew I had to act fast. I had to protect myself before it was too late. The next morning, I called Mr. Allen. We need to act now, I said, showing him the missing notebook. Allen nodded. We can set a trap, make them think they are in control, but we are one step ahead. I followed his advice. I placed a fake notebook on my desk, filled with nothing but old papers. Then I hid the real one in a safe place outside the house. That evening, David and Sarah came to check the notebook. As expected, they grabbed it quickly. I watched secretly from the hidden camera. Their greed blinded them. They didn't notice the trap.
2 days later, the stranger returned. He looked surprised when he could not find the notebook. Sarah whispered angrily, "It should be here." I smiled quietly from behind the camera. Now I had the upper hand. That night, I sent an anonymous letter to the stranger. "Leave my house, or the police will know everything." The next morning he was gone, and Sarah and David were shaken. They realized I was not as weak as they thought. Finally, I felt a small relief, but I knew the battle was not over yet. The following week, I invited my children for another dinner. I cooked carefully, set the table beautifully, and waited. After dinner, I calmly said, "Everything is settled now. My wealth, my documents, all are secure. You can leave and no one will be hurt." David looked at me nervously. Sarah's hands were shaking. They realized that their plan had failed. Their masks were gone. I added softly, "If you ever try again, the law will know everything." They did not speak. Fear was now clear in their eyes. Days later, life in the house became calm. I had hidden cameras, secret will, and everything secured. David and Sarah no longer smiled falsely. They kept their distance. I regained my peace. I thought about my grandson. He could now live safely,
away from greed and lies. I realized one truth. Love cannot be forced. Greed reveals itself. And sometimes, to protect yourself, you must play the game first. I closed my leather notebook, smiled quietly, and finally felt safe in my own home.